5 count or whatever you would normally do, that would be great.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the meeting of the Connecticut Board of Regents for Higher Education on this very snowy Thursday in December. I believe we've had more snow in the last few hours than we did all of last year, which means that we all need to pace ourselves very, very carefully when we clear snow, and be very careful because we forget how to drive in the snow. And we overexert ourselves, and we have a pandemic, and we really are close to the end of 2020. And in all seriousness, we need to be sure that everybody who's here today is here in the next 15 days and for hopefully a much better 2021. So greetings to you all, holiday wishes to you all. Thank you for your incredible commitment and resilience over the past year, which has been challenging on so many levels and continues to be. And I know more resilience will be called for in the year to come. But hopefully there is a light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. I would note that it being 2020, the din of snow blowing probably will begin exactly when I have the most important thing on my agenda to say. For that, I apologize in advance. So having called the meeting to order, let me ask the secretary to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fleury. I'll take the roll. Chair Fleury.
Here.
Regent Harris. Regent Harris. Thank you. Regent Balducci. Here, I see you.
Here.
Regent Budd.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Cohen.
Here.
Regent Gray Kemp.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Howery.
Here.
Regent Jimenez.
Here.
Regent Ryan.
She is there, Pam.
She is there. I see her. Regent Santiago.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Wright. And Student Regent Antonio Oglesby.
Here.
Thank you. Professor Blitz.
Here.
Professor Sasanker.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Westby.
Here.
Your absence, pardon me? Oh, he's here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gifford. Your absence is noted. Commissioner Lehman. Absence is noted. Commissioner Cardona. Absence is noted. Chair Fleury, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I would just note, as those of you who read the papers, probably everyone is aware, that we might wish Commissioner Cardona success. It's really a great honor, I think, for him. That's well deserved, and for the state of Connecticut and for this board of which he's a member, to know that he is evidently under active consideration for a very, very large job in aid of education at the national level with the new administration. And I'm certainly in no position to predict where that will go, but just to have his name in active consideration, I think speaks well of his work. And we want to wish him our best regards. And to the extent he's willing to take that on, say thank you and good luck. And I also want to welcome our student regent, Antonia. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to working with you. I know there are some provisions for power outages and things like that, or internet outages. And if that happens, we're going to lean really heavily on Alice and Pam to figure our way through that. Hopefully we can all make it through this
Hello?
from a technical perspective. A reminder, if you're not speaking, to mute yourself, and that when you do, to unmute yourself, because we really like to hear the first cut at what you're about to say rather than your sort of rehearsed second version, which is never quite as good or as spontaneous. Let me ask for a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded, I think, by Regents Cohen and Harris in that order. Let me ask for a vote on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Great, thank you. So we have an agenda. Now we open our meetings with an opportunity to address the board. Thanks to the tech effort, we're able to do that now live, which is really much better than just taking written comments. I would note we have received a couple of written comments because they were submitted after the time for pre-registration, but we have quite a number of speakers. I know that the secretary has informed the speakers that we have quite a long list of people who want to speak. Our time for this is usually 30 minutes, acknowledging the volunteer commitment of the regents. I'm hopefully not going to offend any of them by saying we want to make sure that everybody who has registered to speak can speak, but just ask you to respect the fact that at 3 minutes each, which is the usual allocated time, that would be well in excess of the portion of the meeting we dedicate to that. So if we could ask you to stick closer to 2 minutes, that would be great. And the secretary will manage it from there. So let me now turn it over to the comments, which the board listens to. And then after we've gone through the speakers, I'll pick it up from there. Okay, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Chair Fleury. Just for full disclosure, in addition to those requesting to speak during this public comment period, the board has received 2 letters in accordance with the Freedom of Information Guidelines as amended during the pandemic. The communications were posted on the CSC website immediately prior to the meeting start time and distributed to the board in advance of the meeting. And so we have students as well as faculty and public members. And our first student is Sherrod Blackwell. So if we can bring him in from the lobby. Sherrod, can you hear us?
Hello.
Okay, and speak up nice and clearly, please. Thank you.
Hello. I can start?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so good morning to the members of the Board of Regents. My name is Sherrod Deshaun Blackwell Jr., and I'm a junior at Southern Connecticut State University. Not only am I just a student, but I'm the president of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated and the president of OLAS, which stands for the Organization of Latin American Students. I stand here before you all today to highlight some of Southern's achievements, as well as highlight what Southern has done and what it means to me. To start off, I just want to take this time to highlight this year and how remarkable it was. This year was a very important year, not only because of COVID, but for minorities as well as faculty members. This year, Southern held the first march in school history and allowed students to take a stand in what we believed in. This year was a leap of faith as Southern used their platforms and backed the community and helped raise awareness to the social injustices and inequalities that students at Southern face daily. This year, Southern has created a sense of unity amongst all students, no matter what race or gender you are. The faculty at Southern Connecticut State University are committed to students like me and to our academic excellence, our access to quality education, and to contributing to the public good. Southern and its faculty stand for the community and have given students a voice. Southern faculty provides students like me with access to great mentorship, resources in many different departments, and they're committed to social justice and to bringing all of the multicultural organizations on campus to students as one. This year,
It seems that we have lost.
Okay, why don't we move on, and I'll put Trev back in the lobby, and we'll see if we can get him back.
Okay, thank you. I've paused him, so his time is okay. You moved him back to the lobby?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, our next student speaker is Myles Goritsky. There he is. Myles, can you hear us? And if you could give us a test?
Yep.
Can you hear it? Okay, thank you. Your 3 minutes will begin. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Myles Goritsky. I'm a senior at Southern Connecticut State University. I've been very blessed to have a lot of great teachers throughout my life who have made an impact on me and inspired me, so much so that I'm currently assistant teaching second grade in New Haven. I just stepped out of my Meet with the Kids so I could give this statement. It's important I take a minute to advocate for the people who have done so much of the same for me. My professors at Southern have been phenomenal, both in the quality of their lessons and the way they've been there for me, to support me in my education and life in general. I'm honored I was asked to speak by Tim Parrish and Shelley Stower McCarthy, two professors I've been able to build a close relationship with. Professor Stower McCarthy's praise and encouragement rekindled my passion for writing, which Professor Parrish then helped with honing my craft. Tim and I, he asked us to call him Tim, communicated regularly about writing and even just sharing life experience, jokes, and the like. With COVID, having these genuine relationships has been super crucial to grounding me in my university experience. Having someone who really knows and cares about me on the other side of that Zoom call or email makes a big difference. Getting done with my classes this semester was a big relief, but at the same time, it was bittersweet because I knew I'd miss seeing my teachers. If that doesn't tell you something about how impactful these professors can be, and I don't know what else to say. My advisor, Dr. Petto, is even the chair of the history department, but anytime I've needed her help or asked her a question, she has responded within a day, often in the course of an hour or two. She knows me. She has helped support me with mental health situations. Whenever we meet to go over my degree evaluation, she always checks and sees how I'm doing and makes sure I'm taking care of myself. I can personally attest that it's critical for professors to have adequate time and resources to give students the attention they deserve. I wouldn't want anything to impede future Connecticut students from having the same opportunities I've had to build these relationships, which will continue to help me into the future and have made me feel supported and safe in my time at Southern. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, Myles. You can sign off. And Alice, our next speaker is Andy Tonius. I hope I said that right.
I think we got her.
Okay.
Where'd she go? There she is. Andy, you good? All right, so you're muted. Please unmute, and away you go.
So my name is Andy Tonius, and I am an MFA student in my second year. I moved to Connecticut from Utah to attend Southern. And in my graduate, the majority of my roommates attended a private university while I attended a state one. The only substantial difference I saw in our educational experiences was that my student body was more diverse. We had working students, we had non-traditional students, we had first-generation students. I wasn't stuck in an ivory tower of the ivory tower of academia. My classes came with a range of thought and perspective that cannot be created by a professor, no matter how talented or qualified. It is diversity of thought and experience that I think is invaluable education. It is what motivated me to seek a state university on the opposite side of the country. When I first started looking into the MFA program at Southern, I reached out to Jeff Mock and was enchanted by his responsiveness and the program's dedication to community. I knew this university would continue to deepen my educational journey. I hate to think that if I graduated a few years later, I would be unable to come here. I was able to attend Southern because of a graduate assistantship that Tim Parrish was able to procure for me. I left the GA because this semester I was awarded a GTA working with Brian Johnson, and next semester I'm going to be a lecturer teaching an English 112 class. Without these resources, I would not have been able to move here and attend this program. The proposed cuts prevent students like me from joining Southern's community, and it will depreciate the quality of education that Southern is able to offer.
Thank you, Andy. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us. Alice, our next speaker is Francesca Palmer. Oh, and excuse me, Alice, Josh Camp just
Yep.
came on.
Yep.
You want to do Josh next?
Yep, please.
Josh, can you test your microphone, please, and make sure that we can see you and hear you? Or hear you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Okay, are you ready to begin your public comment?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Your 3 minutes will begin.
All right, thank you. When I first attended Southern, the fall of 2019, I transferred from a community college, North Community College, and at the community college, I was in a position for vice president of student government. And at this position, we were going through a long turmoil of. Yeah, so I'm ready. I'm sorry, I'm hearing something else in the background. But I was beginning to work with my other student body to work on the Students First initiative that the Board of Regents implemented for all the state colleges and universities, for all the community colleges to consolidate them. And we realized that it was a really faulty plan, and it was intentional to save money, to cut budgets and whatnot. And it really truly was not for students first. Right now, we're working with Southern and all state colleges in a sense of trying to enhance education by implementing a different system for the staff and faculty. And I sort of see emulation of what was done with Students First. Implementing different routes of how to redistribute resources for the school and using this as a scapegoat, using the pandemic as a scapegoat, I truly don't see is entirely for the professors. Because if it really was, then for adjunct professors, for part-time professors not seeking, for not gaining access to work or potential work hours can truly hurt them. For some of our part-time professors are trying to get into this and into the education route, trying to get full-time positions, and the Board of Regents, the state has not truly given all these employees living wages, and some of our professors are on food stamps and they require SNAP and whatnot. So I really don't think that this is here to enhance education. December 1st is when the proposal went, and that was such a late time to let all of us know such a thing that's happening. I really hope that you guys could truly see that this isn't really for the professors, because if you're intentionally aiming to give the professors more students to teach, to educate, then you're relinquishing work from other potential professors, as well as your limited resources for students who actually need that connection. A lot of students feel that with COVID, they feel like a statistic, they feel like a number, and they don't really feel that close connection when we had on-ground courses. And that if the state is working on a way to build better retention from students, then I don't feel that that's appropriate way to really gain more students in the upcoming semesters and the upcoming years. I know all the schools are in a deficit, and we're in.
Josh, if you could wrap up your comments, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's about it, but I really do appreciate you for letting me speak today. Have a great one. Gain more students in the upcoming semesters and the upcoming years.
Thank you, Josh.
All the schools are in a different-
Alice, our next speaker is Francesca Palmer. Thank you.
Okay, hold on one second. I think people are getting bumped out and then they're coming back. Here we go, Francesca. Francesca is there.
Hello.
Francesca, great.
There she is.
Go ahead, Pam.
Okay, Francesca, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. And your 3 minutes is starting.
Thank you. Good morning. I would like to start by saying that I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. My name is Francesca Palmer. I am a senior at Central Connecticut State University. I am also a senator in the Student Government Association, as well as chair of the SGA's External Affairs Committee. I am here this morning to say that I am deeply concerned and even disturbed by the Board of Regents' contract proposal from my professors. The primary reason I chose to continue my education at Central as opposed to UConn came down to class size. As someone who faced significant struggles in high school but has excelled in college, I know that one of the key factors to my success comes down to not just being a face in the crowd of a lecture hall. I am an extrovert who learns best when I can participate in active discussions and ask questions that receive immediate feedback. The small class sizes at Central afford me that ability. If there is anything this semester has taught me, it is the importance of a community that is built in reasonably sized classes. Being virtual makes everything harder, but I have most appreciated and enjoyed the courses that still included group discussion and participation despite the online format. I have appreciated the professors like Dr. Jason Sikorsky and Dr. Candace Wallace, who still got to know each of their students and encouraged us when they saw we were struggling. My professors have been able to ask for feedback and input from the class and been able to adjust accordingly. None of this will be possible if the BOR removes the current safeguards that minimize larger class sizes. We have a whole new generation of young people preparing to attend our schools in the next 4 years. They are currently struggling through virtual schooling, feeling alone, and feeling invisible. This generation is going through high school from their laptops with their cameras off. If they're going to be drawn toward our universities and recover from the hardships of this year, it will be because they know they will be seen here. The increased class sizes and increased workload put onto the backs of professors as proposed in this contract will drastically decrease the quality of education our CSCU schools can offer. I'm not sure who the BOR thinks their desired changes will benefit, but it certainly will not be the students of the schools that have been entrusted to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Francesca. And that concludes the student portion of our public comment. Our first faculty member is Sarah Baker.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I appreciate this opportunity to be the first faculty member to speak today, but I am not here alone. I am joined by just a few of my colleagues right now virtually, and so many more. So my name is Sarah Baker Bailey. I'm a faculty member at Southern. Volumes have been spoken by the Board of Regents in its contract proposal through statements more recently to the CT examiner regarding its view of faculty, our workload, our working conditions, and our work ethic. It's been upsetting to so many of us across our campuses to read disparaging remarks about us in the newspaper and see a contract proposal that devalues our public education system, does harm to our students, several of whom you just heard from, and it denies dignity to state employees. I am here to say, and I'm joined by my colleagues behind me, we are not whiny. We believe in equity, access, and opportunity to a quality public education. We believe in dignified working conditions for state employees. And we are not few. You can see it with the folks who are in the virtual background behind me. I know that I have a lot of colleagues out there in a virtual watch party that are joining me in solidarity today. And we're not overpaid. We're maybe underpaid and overworked at best. And not all of us enjoy job security, myself included, but I'm here today. I applaud my colleagues who do have job security for leveraging that privilege to speak up and to speak out for vulnerable colleagues. What has been proposed by this board creates a two-tiered system that devalues public education in our state, and specifically devalues a CSCU education. And it further disenfranchises vulnerable citizens of this state, specifically based along the lines of race, ethnicity, and class. It is past time that we desegregate Connecticut. Myself and my faculty colleagues, again, the ones who are pictured here today and the ones who stand out there in the world and support, we call for open transparency during this vital negotiation process. We want open bargaining. It should be a part of the ground rules that are established, and we want it to be hosted on Zoom. I appreciate the diligence of the moderators today navigating WebEx. I know as a faculty member, it is not, I've been teaching remotely for a year now. It is not easy to do. Zoom will provide us with a stable, secure platform to engage in open and transparent negotiations and bargaining. I ask the board today, and I ask on behalf of my faculty colleagues, to negotiate with CSU AAUP to create an educational system that we can all take pride in, an educational system that our students deserve.
Sarah, if you could wrap up your comments, please.
Sure. The
Thank you.
education system that our state residents need. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next speaker is faculty member John OConnor. John, can you do a test on your mic, please?
Sure. Hello?
Thank you. You ready?
Yep.
Your 3 minutes will begin.
Okay. Good morning, President Ojekian and the board. My name is John OConnor. I teach in the sociology department at CCSU. In a 2015 interview with the Connecticut Mirror, President Ojekian said the following, quote, "I'm not trying to break the union. Anybody who knows me will say that's not what I'm about. I'm about working people. I'm not trying to disenfranchise the faculty and take away everything they have. I respect their work," unquote. Well, President Ojekian, maybe that was true in 2015, but it's certainly not the case in 2020. At a time when students, faculty, and our institutions are stressed and unsettled due to COVID, job loss, and racial injustice, your response is to blow it all up and burn it all down. As you retire, students will be injured by your contract proposals. You are leaving them a shell of a university. You may not care, but our students deserve so much more. Your proposals have nothing to do with financial conditions, and you know that. You have sabotaged Jane Gates, and you have scuttled any serious search for your replacement. Who would want the job? My colleagues at Central, Southern, Eastern, and Western, and those in the community colleges are used to being disrespected by this board. We have come to expect nothing less. Full-time and part-time professors, coaches, trainers, counselors, and librarians are nothing more than labor costs to Woodland Street. We are just a column in your spreadsheets. You don't acknowledge and you don't care about the labor, the work that faculty members do. You've never cared about the lives that we've changed or the possible futures that we have presented. Collectively, you have dismissed our expertise, our passion, our hard work, and our empathy. Educating students is expensive, but the outcome of that effort is priceless. Work conditions always have a substantial impact on the educational experience of students, and they are key to the teaching we do and the research we engage in. Clearly, those that know education should be the ones that lead education. This board does nothing but dismiss public employees as the public enemy. You have never acknowledged that my colleagues have given back to the state in 2009, 2011, and 2017. CSU AAUP wants to develop our universities. We want to make them great. Faculty members know why that matters. We work with students every day. You could have had a partner, but President Ojekian chose a business model of stability and efficiencies, consultants, and consolidation. You will not bust our union. In fact, this board is making CSU AUP stronger. Our union will defend our students, we will defend our members, and we will defend our universities. We'll do that in the press, we'll do that in the negotiating room, and we'll do it at Woodland Street. It is the
Professor
actions of
O'Connor,
this board.
if you could wrap up your comments, please. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope I captured the spirit of those faculty members pictured behind me when I say, President Ojekian, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And with that, I'd like to wish you all a happy and safe holiday season.
Thank you. Our next faculty speaker is Christopher Ducott. Christopher, can you unmute yourself and test your microphone?
Good morning.
Thank you. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Your 3 minutes will begin.
Good morning. I was terribly disappointed to read the comments of your spokesperson, Leigh Appleby, who dismissed the union's concerns with your contract proposals as whining. I've been a part-time faculty member at CCSU for 12 years. I teach because I want our society to be the best it can be. We become the best when young people come of age prepared to think critically and act compassionately. At the start of this semester, I was hospitalized and nearly died. But since part-time faculty do not accrue sick time, I chose to teach some of my classes from a hospital bed rather than risk losing my job. Does demanding sick time sound like whining to you? Public education as a public good, not a product for sale, has been under assault and underfunded since I was a kid in Boston and my schools began using only half the lights after Prop 2.5 passed. The BOR proposals continue the push to defund education and displace critical thinking with cheap job training. A society that equates education with job training may create workers, but it can't create effective citizens. A society that emphasizes critical thinking nurtures minds while enabling young people to pursue professional interests, while also empowering them to constructively engage in civil society as competent citizens. The damage to society caused by policies the BOR seeks to extend abounds today, as critical thinking, highly educated experts are condemned as elitists by anti-vaxxers who believe propaganda distributed on Facebook during a pandemic, and QAnon conspiracy adherents are elected to Congress when civil discourse is at a perigee. The only way to mitigate and repair our society is with critical thinking. The best way to support critical thinking is robust support of public higher education. I urge the BOR to be better citizens and responsible stewards of public resources by embracing the AAUP's Opening Minds, Opening Doors proposals. Your closed-minded proposals will only close more doors for our students and our state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Robert Forbes. Robert, if you could unmute yourself and check your mic for me, please.
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, we can. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you.
Your 3 minutes will begin.
Thank you. To the Regents, to President Ojekian, and to the Regents staff, thank you for this opportunity. I'm a professor in the School of Business at Southern. I'm also a faculty coordinator for our school's AACSB accreditation initiative. Several of the BOR's recently proposed contract changes will imperil business accreditation at Southern, Central, and Western. And as a reminder of the importance of accreditation, only about 5% of the schools of business in the world have AACSB's prestigious stamp of quality. Connecticut's employers, parents, and students know that AACSB accredited schools offer educational and career opportunities that are not available at other institutions. Furthermore, our ability to grow enrollment, to bring additional tuition revenue to our cash-strapped system is linked to accreditation. Allow me to make 3 brief points. First point, the proposed increase in teaching loads will lead inevitably to decreased research output, which imperils accreditation. AACSB's Standard 8, which addresses scholarship expectations, makes clear that faculty must publish high-quality research in peer-reviewed journals. It will be nearly impossible for business faculty to continue to publish and to teach more classes. And if we don't publish, we will receive negative accreditation decisions. We know that the business community, the business workforce, parents, and students care about accreditation, because AACSB accreditation represents the highest standard of achievement for schools of business worldwide. Second point, the proposed elimination of research grants will create a reduced capacity to conduct research in our 3 schools of business. If business faculty do not maintain an active stream of research, AACSB standards consider us to be unqualified. If employers, parents, and students learn that Southern has failed to obtain AACSB accreditation, or that Central or Western have lost their accreditation, we will experience reduced enrollment and, of course, decreased tuition revenue. Third and final point, the proposed elimination of research reassigned time impacts AACSB Standard 8, which I've explained previously, but it also impacts AACSB Standards 2 and 3, which address the allocation of resources. If you eliminate this important resource, business faculty will be unable to conduct the high-quality research that is necessary and sufficient to obtain and retain AACSB accreditation. And again, lost accreditation would matter to employers, parents, and students. Without question, the quality of our business program would diminish without accreditation. Thank you for your time and attention this morning. I look forward to building a stronger, more sustainable future for our system together, and that includes 3 AACSB accredited schools of business. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next faculty presenter is Timothy Parrish. Is he still in the lobby? Oh, there he is. Timothy, if you could test your microphone for me. Can you hear me? Timothy, could you say something, please, to make sure that we know that you can be heard by the board? No.
I don't see him. Let me go to the next person. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you. Our next person is Stephen Monroe Tomzak. Something, please, to make sure that we know that you can be heard by the board. Stephen, you're unmuted. Can you test your microphone, please?
Yeah, let me go to the next person. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you. Could you say something and let us know that you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, super. Are you ready to begin?
Yes.
The
I can begin
The
now.
floor is yours. Your 3 minutes is ready.
Okay. I come before you today, not purely as a faculty member in the social work department at Southern Connecticut State University, but also as a graduate of that institution. And as an alum, I have a particular concern with what this board is planning to do to the school I graduated from. Will it choose to invest in students like me so that we can become productive, contributing members of the state's economy, as the vast majority of us do, or will it abandon the historic mission of our university system to give middle and working class students like me a chance at, say, becoming a college professor? And as I see it, both from the budget cuts announced at the last board meeting to the draconian contract negotiating proposals our faculty union has been presented with, the plan is to abandon that commitment. As faculty dedicated to the mission of our universities, we are not only fighting for our jobs and our students, we are fighting for the future of higher education and the Connecticut State University system. To this point, it is important to remember that our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. The ability of our universities to continue to perform this function, however, is now in jeopardy with these proposals. The New England Commission on Higher Education mandates that in order to be accredited, the universities must adhere to certain standards. Several of the BOR's proposals violate these standards, particularly the subpoints of Standard 6, which obligates accredited institutions to create conditions that facilitate effective instruction, student advisement, scholarship and research, and service by faculty. And in order to achieve this, it requires that the institution promote academic freedom. The BOR's contract proposals and budget cuts do none of this, and in fact undermine all of these goals in a myriad of ways. If these proposals are implemented as proposed, in my view, it's a virtual certainty that our institutions will lose their accreditation. We can and should do better. I find it frankly appalling that as our student populations have become more diverse, as we have transitioned from having a student body composed of young people who look like me to much larger proportions of persons of color, there's been a steady disinvestment in higher education in the Connecticut State University system, resulting in cost shifting onto students in the form of tuition and fees, and continued attack on the dedicated professionals who provide education to these students. We ask you to join us in opening minds and opening doors, not closing them. The next generation of Connecticut State University students deserves better. We should invest in them the way a prior generation of university leaders invested in me. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Our next speaker, if we want to try to get Professor Parrish back on with us.
Okay, they put you on next. Now it's a guy, someone else.
There you go.
Because for a minute I thought you
Tim, you were on.
You were on mute the whole time. They're coming back to you.
Okay.
Tim, can you test your microphone now? You are muted.
Does he now ask to unmute?
I just sent him a request to unmute. Professor Parrish, you're still muted. If we can try this again, Alice, and move to Maureen Chalmers.
Maureen, should we come on?
I'm here.
Great.
May I begin?
Hold on. Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Maureen Chalmers, president of the Four Cs Union, representing the faculty and professional staff of the 12 community colleges. I know your intent today is to celebrate the work of the Board of Regents and its leadership, but I am here to give you a report card on how we feel you've done. All 12 faculty senates voted no confidence in the consolidation plan and de facto no confidence in the Board of Regents or its leadership. Your facade of faculty inclusion and the use of people's names on committees that they had long ago refused to attend is a lie to Nietzsche and destroying the collegial relationship between the faculty, college-level presidents, and deans. F. In the past year, you hired a vice president of human resources.
Andrew is telling me I'm on. I'm not on, am I?
Excuse me, I have the floor. In the past year, you hired a vice president of human resources. Did you hire the very knowledgeable person with years of experience in Connecticut labor relations? No. Did you hire a highly experienced person with decades of HR experience for community colleges? No. You hired a person with no experience in public sector or higher ed to lead the state's public higher education institution's HR department. He is an individual who doesn't see us as faculty, professional staff, or even as employees. He has called us buckets. Buckets to do this and buckets to do that. When he obliviously used this corporate speak, I needed a bucket. F. You have contracted and removed human resources from where the humans are. In doing so, it is unresponsive. You've had many dozens of people who wanted to retire, but did not get the information they needed to do. Minor issues that could be solved with a brief meeting between people who knew each other on the campuses is now more like a grand inquiry with ominous form letters. F. The HR vice president, with your permission, has tied the hands of the college level presidents in regards to the health and safety of the faculty, staff, and students in a stunt. Excuse me. There are people who are speaking and I'm a little distracted.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the problem is. It keeps muting automatically.
Kim, if you could wait,
I have the floor.
Maureen Chalmers has the floor. If you could wait for a minute, we do realize it.
Can you hear me now? Shake your heads, please, if you can. It keeps automatically unmuting.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay, I'll try this again. I have to hold the space bar. My name is Tim Parrish, and I'm proud to have been a professor at SDSU for 26 years.
I have the floor. The HR vice president, with your permission, has tied the hands of the college level presidents in regards to the health and safety of the faculty, staff, and students in a stunt over contract language and inclement weather. In doing this, he has shown contempt for the mental and physical health and the labor charge that was filed that disregarded contract language. F. Our members did heroic work to evacuate the colleges and perform teaching and other work remotely. They even spent their own money, a great deal of it, to do so. HR feels only some people should be compensated for these expenses, knowing full well that that agreement was for all our members. F. Lastly, in regards to the heroic work done to make this transition, our IT staff
Let me dispel the stereotype of our ivory tower workload.
Will you stop talking? I have the floor. Lastly, in regards to the heroic work done to make this transition, our IT staff were declared essential. They stayed on grounds and got equipment out to the employees and the students, not fully even knowing what risk they were in. And our distance learning specialists worked 16+ hour days for weeks to guide our faculty and during this mid-semester change. Did these people get merit awards for this heroic work? No. We asked for them to be granted merit awards, and we have yet to hear a clear answer. It is a sad state of affairs that this is what we have come to in the time that you have been working on this consolidation and since you've been working on this transition. We had a community college that was collegial, respectful, collaborative on all levels, whether it was in the classroom, curriculum, with the presidents and with the Board of Regents. And we have completely strayed off that path. And I am speaking quite clearly that our members are fed up with
Ms. Chalmers, could you wrap up your comments, please? I've extended your time slightly, but I'd like you to wrap up your comments, please. Thank you.
Well, it is a sad state of affairs that we are where we are right now. And I'm sorry I was interrupted, and I'm sorry that I sound angry, but I am reflecting the feelings of the faculty and professional staff.
Thank you. Are we going to try to get Tim Parrish back on?
No, he's out.
Okay.
You have one more speaker.
Yes, Robin Gustafson. Robin, can you test your microphone, please?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. And your 3 minutes is about to begin.
Thank you. Are we going to try to get Tim Parrish back on?
Robin, can you mute your YouTube feed, please?
No, he's out.
Yes.
Okay. We have one more speaker.
Yes, Robin Gustafson.
Sorry about that. My name is Robin Gustafson. I'm an associate professor of cognitive science at Western Connecticut State University. And I want you to take a minute and just imagine that we had a network of institutions already perfectly poised to combat some of today's most pressing issues: social, racial, economic inequality. That is what the 17 campuses of the CSCU could be if strengthened after the battering they've already endured from recent budget and dismantling crises. The faculty and students in this system are some of the most thoughtful and inspiring people I've ever encountered. My students have done research recently on critical issues right here in our regional communities, such as racism, mental health, PTSD in veterans, gender inequality, math learning in middle school girls, and the immigrant experience. While it's true that some of our students do graduate and then leave Connecticut to pursue a PhD and an academic career somewhere else in our great nation, because that's how academic careers work, those who graduate with a bachelor's or a master's degree tend to stay here in Connecticut to help make our neighborhoods and communities better and more effective. If you continue to gut our public higher education system, what will be left for our children and grandchildren in this once great state? You have a choice right now to pander to today's millionaires or to invest in a flourishing state for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, for your comments.
Hey, Maya, I'm not sure if Sherrod's still there, but if he is, we could let him try one last time to wrap up.
Is he in the lobby?
Not positive.
I do not see him.
Says it's not dead. Okay. All right.
Chair Fleury, that concludes the public comment.
I just wanted to say I did see Sherrod's name pop up while you were asking whether he was in the waiting room. Could we just make sure that he's not hanging on for his opportunity here?
Absolutely. Oh, Sherrod, can you hear us? You're muted. Yeah, Sherrod, can you hear us? Are you able to speak? Okay, I don't think so.
All right. I'm sorry it's so difficult. I think we maybe batted 80 or 90% on the tech, and that's no small
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, there's Sherrod. Oh, and then he's gone again. Sherrod, if you keep your video off, I believe we'll be able to hear you just fine.
Okay.
There he is.
There you go. There you go.
What's on my? Okay, there we go. Okay. So good morning once again. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but my name is Sherrod Deshaun Blackwell Jr. and junior at Southern Connecticut State University. Not only am I just a student, but I'm the president of Attorney Incorporated, and I'm the president of OLAS, which stands for the Organization of Latin American Students. I stand here before you all today to highlight some of Southern's achievement and as well highlight what Southern has done and what it means to me. To start off, I just want to take this time to highlight this year and how remarkable it was. This year was a very important year, not only because of COVID, but for minorities as well as some faculty members. This year, Southern held the first march in school history and allowed students to take a stand in what we believed in. This year was a leap of faith as Southern used their platforms and backed the community and helped raise awareness to the social injustices and inequalities that students at Southern face daily. This year, Southern has created a sense of unity amongst all students no matter what race or gender you are. The faculty at Southern Connecticut State University are committed to students like me and to our academic excellence, to our access to quality education, and to contributing to the public good. Southern and its faculty stand for the community and has given students a voice. Southern faculty provides students like me with access to great mentorship, resources in many different departments. They're committed to social justice and to bringing all of the multicultural organizations on campus together to keep students as one. This year, COVID has taken a huge toll on all universities. One of the biggest changes that everyone had to face, whether being a professor, was transferring in person to virtual. I would like to take this time to tell a quick story about this semester. This semester, one of my professors in my program was going through some sort of problem and couldn't teach this year. Based off that one professor in my program being gone, this created a problem. Other professors had to scramble and work on the fly to try and cover for the teacher. This one instructor played a big role in the success of all students in my program. Her presence being gone affected us all, even the professors, as they had to expand to help and instruct more students. To sum it up, every faculty member at Southern plays a big role in student success and education. The more students that faculty have, the less they can focus on each individual student needs. The more classes that faculty have, the more students, rather than a future professional or a scholar or an entrepreneur or a leader. Students look at Southern as a median when looking for a tolerable size university as far as the faculty to student ratio. Southern being a student-centered institution, highest priority is student success. But how can they guarantee that if there's larger class sizes, if there's less courses offered, if there's less departmental resources, if there's less library resources for students, and if faculty will have to teach more classes? Now that leaves us with the question of how can the Connecticut State Universities truly guarantee student success? Thank you.
Thank you, Sherrod. And Chair Fleury, that does indeed conclude our public comments.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry that Professor Parrish's comments didn't make it, and also sorry for the interruptions of a couple of the speakers that I know that team tried readily to avoid. So thank you to those who took the time to speak. Thank you for speaking with the passion that you bring to this, and that certainly is unsurprising in that you bring that to your work every day. We don't negotiate contracts publicly. When others choose to do so, it obviously puts the other party at a public relations disadvantage unless one chooses to enter the public argument. And to date, that's not the posture that this board or our organization is going to take. It just suggests that there are two sides to every conversation, and certainly every negotiation, that acknowledge that this is not going to be an easy conversation given circumstances. The one thing I would just want to, I feel I owe it to my fellow regents and the professional staff to at least make the point that certainly a critique of our work and our policies is appropriate. That's why we don't argue with those who speak in a setting like this. But I do take issue with the disparagement of the intent or intellectual capability of the people who serve as volunteers. I know there have been misperceptions that somehow we're compensated or have something to gain in a financial sense from our volunteer roles here, and want to make abundantly clear that what we're compensated by is the not small psychic reward of seeing individuals achieve more in their lives as a function of the work that, despite the contentious moments, we all care about equally. Myself and others on this board know the work of this system and systems like it because we're products of that. I can assure everyone that we have not forgotten that many of the conditions reflected by students who spoke and noted by faculty who spoke are not unfamiliar to every member of this board. We have not forgotten that.
Mr. Chair, before you move on, could I ask, we have somebody who's on the phone, and I'm just checking to see if it's a regent before I. Okay, go ahead, I'll move them up.
Call-in user 4, if you could identify yourself. We have lost David Blitz from the feed.
I think he is trying to call in. That might be him.
If he could unmute himself and identify himself, that would be great.
All right, we're not going to obviously fail to have Dr. Blitz make his remarks, which I know he is thoughtfully planned for. Meantime, I'll just conclude my remarks briefly by saying students and faculty who spoke remarked on the resource needs of our institutions, our faculty and staff and students, and I would only second that and say that that is a point on which we're all agreed, and remind everyone that a united call for funding at every level, federal, state, in particular of our work is essential. And we must not allow whatever internal debate we may have distract us from recognizing that this board has nothing to say about the level of taxation or the allocation of tax funds to public higher education, other than to be a very, very strong and earnest advocate for that. And we'll continue to advocate for that. And I hope we all can together. With that, let's turn to the next item. And that is the Faculty Advisory Committee report. And if David Blitz is not on, one option.
I'm here on the telephone. Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
All right, I don't know, the telephone, I've lost my internet connection, and the telephone keeps disconnecting me as well, muting me. So do let me know if you can't hear me anymore.
Okay, Dr. Blitz, the connection is not wonderful. If you and your co-chair would like to switch order so we could work out your tech, I'd be happy to try to do that. If you'd like to proceed, that's fine as well.
I don't know. Are you able to hear me properly?
I'm hearing you now, yes.
Okay, let me proceed. Thank you, Chair Fleury and members of the. This is the annual report of the Faculty Advisory Committee, and we've divided into two sections, one from the chair and one from the vice chair. The role of the Faculty Advisory Committee is to advise and assist the Board of Regents in the accomplishment of its tasks and functions. And what follows is going to be largely a criticism, but I think it should be antecedently stated that there are things with which we are in agreement. For example, the full funding of the PACT program. That is an accomplishment of the board, and I and the Faculty Advisory Committee as well certainly hope that as a result the legislature will as well fully fund and return the reserve funds which the board is currently using in order to finance PACT. However, let me point out a certain number of problems that we identify and that we have discussed in previous meetings. Firstly is a problem of over-centralization and multiplication of levels of administration. If we look at the system office budget, it has doubled from 2017, when it was $30.3 million, to 2020, when at the last meeting, the October meeting of the board, the second to last meeting, it was increased to $69.2 million. There are no savings, and at most an unfulfilled promissory note. The line items under the system office have increased from 2 to 4 items, including the currently non-existent Connecticut State College Community College, the so-called One College, and the rather undefined shared services. Centralization of budget of this sort means centralization of control, and we think that this is a serious problem for the proper functioning of the various institutions comprising the CSCU. We note that there has been a doubling of number of levels in the CSCU from 2 to 4. If we look at the community colleges in particular, namely the CEOs, the regional presidents, which is a new level, the CSCC president, which is a new level, and the CSCU president. There's been a doubling of system offices from the CSCU at Woodland Street to the new CSCC office to be shared with Charter Oak in downtown New Britain. There are currently more than 140 people, staff working at Woodland, and by our calculations from the organogram circulated for the new community college, somewhere from 180 to 200 at central office and regional offices or reporting to them. We understand that transfers from Woodland to the CSCC will reduce somewhat that total, but it does not detract from the centralization of control. There is clearly a system office faculty conflict. System office staff attempt to impose student-first policies and deadlines in a mechanical manner, which faculty perceive as disrespectful. And faculty, who ultimately deliver the essential college product, teaching of classes, legitimately resist. This can't be papered over and needs to be addressed. Secondly, we note a reduction of faculty role in curriculum and governance. Again, I'm going to focus on the recently circulated email with proposals for governance at the level of the CSCC. There has been a call for comments, but at least from my computer, that particular link doesn't work. There are too few faculty in the Curriculum Congress, 3 from each of 6 very broadly defined areas of study, and that does not adequately represent all or even a majority of disciplines and programs. Faculty would be a minority in the College Senate, 12 of 27 or 37%. It's unclear how faculty will interact with regional presidents and the services they provide. And it's not clear how the study area-based Curriculum Congress, the campus-based College Senate, and the regionally based presidents can successfully interact. A third point that I want to make is micromanaging by the board, which I think is not a good thing. My colleague, Dr. Sasankar, will talk about College and Student Success 101, so I'll leave that aside. But let us talk briefly about the budget amendment, which was approved at the October meeting of the board. In what follows, the $8 million is not in question. The overall reduction of slightly more than 1% of the university budgets is well within the competence and the power of the board. That's not the problem. However, directed cuts are the problem, especially in the absence of discussion at the Finance Committee and lack of consultation of the university presidents, CFOs, and planning and budget committees. You'll see on page 21 of our report a calculation that meant a reduction of up to 8% of university assistants. Incredibly, a reduction of 2/3 of graduate assistants, and a reduction of part-time classes for the equivalent of 370 full-time students, an order of magnitude similar to that of the losses that we suffered from non-enrollments due to COVID-19. The board should not do this again. We do have suggestions for improvement. A number of them are financial. Open source software, which is scalable, secure, and reliable to replace expensive enterprise software. Reduction of extramural, but not intramural and intra-system sports. Reduction of bureaucracy at the central level, perhaps by 1/3. And launching of funding campaigns to companies and individuals in the private sector that benefit from hiring our students. I want to focus on 3 aspects of respect. We need to respect the distinct missions of the 3 sectors identified in Part 2 of Public Higher Education, Section 185 of state statutes, namely the community college system, the state college, otherwise known as Charter Oak, and the state university system, the 4 CSUs. We need to respect the autonomy and integrity of constituent institutions of each sector so that they can do their job properly without being micromanaged. We need to respect shared governance as a foundation for interaction and, yes, even cooperation between and among administration, faculty, and staff. There are 2 further issues that I want to bring to your attention. One is the question in section in part, sorry, I'm just looking for it here. In part 3, the resolution on normalizing the relationship between the Faculty Advisory Committee and the Board of Regents. And there are 2 items that I want to draw to your attention. Firstly, that section 10A, subsection 3A, point number D, of Section 185 of the Connecticut State Statutes says that there should be at least one biannual joint meeting of the BOR and the FAC. That should be organized, and I will hope that Dr. Sasanker, who will be taking over as chair of the FAC, I will be vice chair in the coming year, will be able to organize that with Chair Fleury. Secondly, the FAC is a statutory committee for the BOR, and it should have the same rights and privileges as a committee of the BOR, that is to say, to make a regular report at meetings of the BOR and not just 2 annual reports, though this annual report should be continued. But more importantly, I also want to mention our criticism of the slogan, "Everything is on the table." We think that this is an empty and not helpful slogan. In the first place, students first isn't included, as has been stated on a number of occasions. But I would believe that that should be reviewed, revised, and if necessary, replaced. Moreover, there are basic principles of public higher education which we have always practiced and which remain intact and which should not be on the table. As a result, the FAC has developed a statement of our guiding or basic principles. And let me just take, in conclusion, a minute or two to read it to you. It's on page 20 of the agenda package for today. We say our basic principles to defend and promote the colleges and universities in all 3 sectors of Part 2 of Section 185 of Public Higher Education in the state of Connecticut. As a general comment, public education in Connecticut is an under-resourced and underfunded essential sector of the state, whose faculty and staff are determined to educate all students, overcome any obstacles of preparedness or achievement gaps that students face, and help them to become productive, engaged citizens. To achieve that goal, we propose the following principles. 1, provide all students with the knowledge and skills for completion of their higher education in a timely fashion and their entry into successful careers. 2, build colleges and universities from the bottom up, based on shared governance, respect for all participants, not top-down through command and control. 3, build public higher education institutions on the foundation of the knowledge and the skills of the faculty and the staff who design programs and courses, teach classes, and support students. 4, respect the distinct missions of the universities and of the colleges, which feature a mix of teaching, research, and service components appropriate to each type. 5, respect the autonomy and integrity of the constituent institutions. In particular, maintain local control along with regional and statewide cooperation, and only on that basis, further sharing of resources. 6, respect shared governance, which ranges from faculty control of curriculum to administrative control of executive appointments, with appropriate consultation at all levels, including budgets. 7, support research and creative activity by faculty and staff in both theoretical and applied fields, and community outreach and engagement in both the public and private sectors. 8, share best practices and, where appropriate, services between and among institutions based on bilateral and multilateral agreements for reciprocal benefits, not bureaucratic directives. 9, review and revise strategic plans for system and sector-wide projects, identifying strengths and weaknesses and applying correctives when and where they are needed. And 10, promote fiscal responsibility and ensure equity and social justice so that all residents of the states can avail themselves of affordable, quality public higher education. I think those principles, important ones, and I hope and I know that they would be shared, I expect, by other members of the board, indeed all the members of the board. But we want to make that explicit as a basis for what we continue to do in the work that we accomplish. With that, I conclude my part of the report and pass to Dr. Sasanker.
Good morning. So in December of 2017, 3 years ago, the FAC report to the board highlighted the risk that the effort to work through the transition to the consolidation would result in such dysfunction and cost overruns that several years from now, we will be tasked with putting the 12 institutions back together again. They called on the board to meet its fiduciary responsibility and develop a process of fact-finding and further inquiry to interrogate vigorously the relative benefits and costs of the proposal prior to voting. They proposed a public hearing, investigating alternatives, especially bottom-up alternatives, and taking into consideration the actual cost of losing our existing colleges. But that didn't happen. In fact, when the board reaffirmed its commitment to the plan a year ago, there really is no evidence that you ever had an opportunity to review the progress of the plan comprehensively before that. When the plan was approved, students would have started enrolling in programs in the consolidated college in fall of 2020. It would have already happened. The timeline was updated in response to NECHI's response that that was unrealistic, so that the third and last round of programs, and this is several hundred programs that would be consolidated, would be complete by December of 2020. The process of review for the programs has not yet begun for even a single program. The 2020 NECHI update to NECHI predicts that the catalog would be live and an academic redesign fully scaled somewhere between January and December of 2022. That leaves us with a lot to do in just a year. Now, the projected transition cost was described as negligible at the time that the plan was approved. At the time of the substantive change request to NECHI in March of 2018, transition costs were estimated at about $2 million. The actual cost of transition for fiscal year 21 alone, a single year, is at least $16.5 million. The cost for fiscal years 22 and 23, if the hiring roster is followed, and the additional $3 million for renovating a new set of offices, will be much higher. Each year of delay comes with a cost, but it does seem that we need more time if this were to be done correctly. At this rate, it's not unreasonable to worry that the actual cost of this transition could be something close to 50 times as much as was projected. Even if you say that maybe these costs were buried somewhere in the initial quantification, this was never presented as an investment of tens of millions of dollars in curricular redesign. And of course, faculty would have no problem with an investment in our system. The question is, an investment in what? So far, the only course in the CSCC college catalog is CCS 101, our first year experience course. The BOR policy already dictates that it satisfies a diversity outcome, even though none of its 4 outcomes address diversity. Even though the diversity requirement is as yet undefined, and even though the report contains this, and I quote, "Success in college requires students to model new behaviors that are specific to the culture of higher education. It is important to note that collegiate expectations of proper behavior are rooted in white middle-class norms." That's a quote from the board policy. Now, the researchers cited in support of this sort of approach actually wrote to the board, and they warn that we know of no study that concludes that the only way that students of color can succeed is to emulate the norms and behaviors of white students. This may have been an assumption made by assimilationist theories in the 1950s, but today we have better research that proves otherwise. Right? That's from Nora Rendon. So that this is the only course in the CSCC catalog and that it anchors the curriculum did not stop leadership from announcing this new college as anti-racist. Now, many of our students are actually involved in the fight for racial justice and have paid costs for that commitment over years. So to casually appropriate that struggle as our own without doing the work to even understand what that word means undermines the trust our students may place in us, and it further contributes to the perception that for many of our students, academia can be a hostile place that denies their experience. We should aspire to something better than that. Now, the final proposal was not reviewed by any curricular groups or governance groups. In fact, Even the work group that developed the proposal and whose names are included on the staff report didn't have a chance to vet its final form before it was approved by the board. Right. This is similar to the situation with the October budget amendment, right? The second that we were able to see it at the board meeting, Dr. Blitz immediately started advocating on behalf of students, pointing out the dire repercussions of this, right? And yet, again, because we didn't have the review of folks who are in touch with students, we ended up, and I find this ironic, the proponents of students first ended up firing their students first in the middle of a pandemic, right? Now, the problem with this is that there's a distance between administration and the human effects of decisions like these. And that's the benefit of having a faculty advisory committee that fills that gap. But our advocacy on behalf of students has really not been effective thus far. And Dr. Blitz has pointed out that we need to reconnect, right, and reestablish the connections between our committee and this board. Another example of the distance between, administration and those who are in contact with students is the defense of the cost of CSCC by pointing out that a lot of the hiring that's going on for the consolidated college comes from within, right? So it's our own people being reshuffled within the system. But that fundamentally misses the point. We have students now, and moving resources from the places where our students are to the places where they are not is the problem, right? So as faculty, you should see that we can't both uphold our responsibility to our students and support that. Now, as we move forward, many elements of the plan are founded on research that really does not necessarily substantiate the direction in which we're going. Guided Pathways is an effort that is expected to cost about $25 million a year. It's expected to also pay for itself, we're told, by credit attempts. Okay? So that's an expectation that something about this redesign of the college will result in a significant jump in student success or something like that, right? Now, there's no explanation for why that expectation is reasonable. There are two documents referenced in the committee report that makes this claim, but neither of those documents actually contain that information. And when FAC followed up asking for actual calculations, we received a pamphlet that described back of the envelope type calculations that you could do to substantiate it. Now, it's likely that the ACME proposal that was recently released and is still receiving comments was supposed to somehow contribute to the significant jump in retention that is expected. However, there are a number of critiques, literature reviews, comparisons of differences between what faculty actually recommended and what the proposed board policy actually is, right? Most notably, the cited sources in that proposal that are supposed to contain evidence that this is the right direction to go, either many of them don't actually contain that evidence, or some directly contradict that claim. This is similar to what happened with the CCS 101 course, with authors writing in to point out that their evidence was misused. In both CCS 101 and this ACME, Alignment and Completion of Math and English, right, proposal, it's the one-size-fits-all approach that is consistent with the aim to standardize the curriculum generally that's really not supported by the literature. And the consequences of a misstep at the level of gateway courses could be catastrophic for the viability of this reform, right? It's also really relevant to this expectation that guided pathways, the cost of which the annual cost of which is larger than the budget of several of our colleges that we were told would have to be closed, right, or risked closure if we couldn't save money somehow. It is relevant to the claim that that will somehow pay for itself. Because it moves towards a co-requisite rather than a prerequisite model for developmental education, it runs the risk of essentially rendering our open enrollment policy meaningless. So this has real consequences for equity. Now, it's still under review, absolutely, but the amount of work that is going into feedback for this single policy is enormous. Imagine what will happen when we have hundreds of programs over the next year. How will we be able to do this sort of thing? Now, shifting resources to pursue this effort, in effect, turns System Office into a 13th college with a budget larger than any of our community colleges. And what we haven't taken into consideration is the opportunity costs here. The plan didn't really, and Dr. Blitz notes this in his remarks, didn't really provide an analysis of or engagement with the issues that we do in fact have and acknowledge at the community colleges, and in fact interrupted years of work towards addressing those issues. While this consolidation has been going on, TAP has suffered. Others, whether it's the CSET and CMAC work, has been sort of misused in this proposal, the ACME proposal to the board. We also should take note that we have been talking about the savings through attrition, and the real meaning of that. We are going to be losing veteran staff to retirement and other things in the next year or so. And that is a huge wealth of knowledge that we're going to be losing, right? That's institutional knowledge that we should be taking care to preserve, and really just have not had the time to pay attention to that while we've trying to keep up with this change. So I'll end with this. An institution that does not have faculty in control of the curriculum is not a college. A bureaucracy built on a portrayal of reality that is unsupported by evidence is bound to fail. And it is unacceptable that we concede that we can't provide Connecticut with adequate public colleges, so we'll offer something else. Right? This plan is premised upon accommodating the continued underfunding of our system. And that's just not an acceptable choice for a state with such wealth. It should be evident at this point, after more than one attempt at a dramatic restructure, that no restructure, no matter how dramatic, can compensate for the harm of underfunding. So it is time, I think, that we return to a commitment to the values that underwrite public higher education. It is a unique mission. And the steady reductions in funding for public education over the last decade or so kind of coincide with the formation of this 17 institution system. It's time for redirection. We should also critically reassess the costs and benefits of our current path, because it's not obvious that the path that we're on is students first. 3 years ago, you approved a plan that had negligible transition costs, would save millions each year. In response, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to remind you that we've well exceeded time, and we do have your report, and some of this was referenced by your colleague. So I'm
wrapping up right now.
Stop you. I'm just asking you to sort of bring it sort of around here. Thank you.
Yes. 3 years ago, you approved a plan that had negligible transition costs and would save money each year in response to financial pressures that, it was claimed, threaten the existence of colleges with budgets smaller than the annual cost of guided pathways. And recognize that you can't build a college without your faculty and staff, and you have lost us somewhere along the way. Section 185, as Dr. Blitz pointed out, establishes us as assisting the Board of Regents, and it does seem that assistance is necessary. It's important that we reestablish that relationship. Thank you.
I didn't realize you were that close to the end, but thank you.
Yeah.
And I thank you both for the, clearly a lot of thought goes into your report and your critique. And you've, continue to raise questions that I think by and large are appreciated in their intent. And the board will continue to, ask that we, attend to these greater concerns and in some cases the particulars. And without question, concur on the final, one of the final points with regard to the need for resources for the system. If there is any response and any of the detail on this to be made from the BOR office or through the committee chairs, of course, they're invited to do that. And I also know that particularly with regard to the budget, there is an expectation that there's going to be a more detailed review, which ought to, among other things, get at some of the questions that you have raised coming up at our next meeting, presumably pursuant to a finance committee meeting. Let me turn now to the balance of my remarks, which are really very, very direct. I think I'll punt most of it to Regent Cohen in the context of the HR and Admin Committee report in terms of the presidential search process. Just to say that this process is underway. The posting for candidates is on the website. Our search firm is identifying potential candidates with the February 5th as the date for best consideration. We have added 4 more students to the search advisory committee so that we have a total of 40 individuals on the SAC search advisory committee, representing the faculty, staff, administrators, and students from our 3 constituent units and the external stakeholders. So more on that, including our policies concerning disclosure of candidates coming up in the HR and Admin report. Let me now turn my remarks to President Ojekian, or at least turn the agenda over to President Ojekian for his remarks. That might be a better way to put it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. I have a couple of brief remarks, and then I wanted to respond just very briefly to a couple of the items that we have already heard this morning. I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the tremendous job that everybody did, both at the system, but also on the campuses and navigating their way through a very successful fall semester under very difficult circumstances. The state universities did a tremendous job with maintaining their residential presence. And we saw, as a matter of fact, at the universities, when we did the extensive testing we did, a positivity rate of only 1% for the entire semester. So an incredible job done by everybody to make sure that we kept everybody on our campuses safe. We had similar results at the community colleges. We did have cases on the community colleges, both in faculty, students, and staff, but we were able to hold those numbers down. And we are, I think, on track today or tomorrow to finish the semester, and I wish everybody well for the holiday season. So a great job, not only in terms of pivoting, as I've said repeatedly, in the spring, but also a very, very successful semester. And now we're working with the colleges and the universities to outline plans for the spring semester. There is an expectation that the majority of students will continue to learn remotely, particularly at the community colleges, but we will keep, or not I, but the team will keep the board posted as that progresses. We're also working with the state other private and public higher education institutions, and FEMA to identify ways that higher education can support the state's recovery. And so thank you to everybody who's been involved in that effort. We're also in discussions with the administration on our role in terms of vaccine distribution and education. And we will have a role to play in that effort. And we look forward to being a part of that response. I also want to say that in January, the board will be receiving a full briefing on the status of the Connecticut State Community College. So I am not going to go into too much detail on that effort now, but just to report that we continue to work closely with NECHI. There's new leadership at NECHI that we've engaged in a very positive way since the summer. And we are on track to be accredited in 2023. We will keep you posted on that effort as that moves forward. But as I indicated in January, there will be a full briefing, which will, I believe, respond to many of the points that were raised earlier as part of the Faculty Advisory Committee report. But I did just want to make a couple of points with regards to some of the issues that were raised in the report, because I did actually read the report. And I want to start by saying that we need to make sure we're all having a conversation with the same set of facts, right? Because I think it's important that the data matters, that the facts matter, that we can disagree on policy, we can disagree on substance, but we need to come from a position where the facts are acknowledged as real. And just a couple of examples, and I don't want to belabor it, but the report asserts that the system office, without explanation, increased from 27%. And I want to tell you that that's not true at all. The consolidation of expenses for IT, HR, finance under the shared service model was fully disclosed, including a complete roster in the staff report. You know, the item was discussed in public, during which time it was clarified to Professor Blitz that the change in presentation does not impact the services that are provided to the 12 campuses. Instead, the change more clearly reflects the cost of providing those services to the campuses. So I think it is incorrect to identify those costs as system office costs. In a discussion we just heard and that we've had over the past year or so, the discussion of the leadership reorganizations in the community colleges, the report describes the changes as hardly a cost-saving measure. In fact, the reduction in cost between presidents and CEOs will save about $50,000 per campus, or about $600,000 once fully implemented. There are additional savings as a result of transitioning positions from one level to another level. We will have a full budget report moving forward, but I think it's important to understand that the savings target is real. We have achieved identifiable savings to date. We have periodically reported on those savings to the board through the Finance Committee, and we will continue to do so in the next iteration. I also just want to comment that while I think some of us have a fundamental disagreement on the Connecticut State Community College, I would be remiss if I didn't say I fully believe and am committed to the fact that this represents the values that we all aspire to continue to have in public higher education. Since 2017, the board has been very committed to this endeavor. And it's been committed for a number of reasons, which I am not going to go over again today. What I will say, though, is since 2017, we have not received one plan which would replace what we are attempting to do and achieve the goals we intend to achieve. I've sat at public hearings at the Capitol where folks have said, wait, give us some more time. We'll have a plan to you in 6 months. It's been almost 4 years, and we have not received a plan that we can put forward and have a educated discussion on. And then finally, in terms of the report, I just want to remark that, as is the right of every board member at a meeting, board members can make amendments on certain items. And at the budget meeting, Regent Balducci made an amendment. All voting members can make an amendment. And so I was going to say Representative Balducci, but Regent Balducci made an amendment to further reduce the expenditure side of the budget. There was a discussion on that amendment, and in the end, there was flexibility given to institutions to find that level of savings, and perhaps not in those targeted areas. What I found interesting was that the report referred to the Board of Regents' effort to amend the CSU budgets as interference. If one looks at section 10A-88 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Board of Regents is the governing board for the universities, and the board has the responsibility and the authority to review and approve institutions' financial plans. So I think actions that fulfill the board's legal obligations can hardly be considered interference. And then finally, I just want to make a couple of comments about collective bargaining. And I'm going to be very respectful, not engage in personal attacks, as I witnessed a little earlier, but attempt once again to take the high road, because I found in my career that when you take the high road, there tends to be less traffic. But first, I want to make very clear that we do not negotiate our contracts in the press or in public comments. We engage in good faith negotiations at the bargaining table, not in the court of public opinion. So when I read that the head of the AAUP indicates that we are not going to be discussing specific contract proposals, and then I see a list of contract proposals, I'm a little confused as to what that is intended to mean. Now, people can take exception to what I'm about to say, but bargaining in good faith requires us to put forth proposals about what we need in our contracts to effectively serve our students, our communities, and the mission of our institution. We put forward our proposals to do that, and labor puts forward their proposals to do that. At the bargaining table, we find common ground and a path forward from those initial positions that everyone can live with. In 2015, my first year as president of the CSCU system, there was the same narrative about my attempt and the board's attempt to destroy public higher education in the state of Connecticut. We sat at the bargaining table in good faith, and we came up with contracts that everybody could live with. We've always been able to find common ground. I've spent a good part of my 40 years in public service negotiating with our collective bargaining units. And I know that with mutual respect for the process and the outcome, we can find our way to a mutually beneficial contract. But I want to be clear that the reality is that even before the hardship of the pandemic hit us, years of declining state support, which we have all advocated for very hard at the state capitol, and decreasing enrollment collided with year after year increases in fringe benefit costs, long-term debt costs, which created a structural deficit across the system, including wage increases. So even before the pandemic hit us, our financial position was not sustainable. And COVID has further eroded not only our financial position, but that of our students and their families as well. We cannot continue to put the increasing costs of our system onto the backs of our students and their families when they are struggling the most. And you will see when we get to the finance portion of the meeting that when we submitted our biennial budget to the Office of Policy and Management, we included in there a couple of assumptions. One being no wage increases for the next 2 years. And the second being no tuition increase or increase in room and board in the next academic year for our students and their families. Additionally, our contract proposal seeks to find more flexibility from our faculty to meet our students where they are. We cannot hope to provide access to higher education and a pathway to social mobility for working families if we operate under the current system that we currently have. I know that there is a sentiment out there that I don't understand or care about the work that our faculty does. That could not be further from the truth. I respect and value their work tremendously. I listen to the students recount the experiences they have had with faculty who has changed their life. I had a faculty member when I went to college during the Civil War who changed the trajectory of my life. So this is not about pitting us against them. It is about finding common ground, common values, and continuing to promote the mission under which we were founded as the Board of Regents for Higher Education. I'll have more to say about the budget later, Mr. Chairman, but thank you for giving me that opportunity just now.
Thank you. Thank you, President Ojekian. We have some things for you on our agenda later on today as well. Let me ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the October 15th and November 19th meetings.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. And second, any changes to the minutes? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, the minutes are approved. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. I do know we have one change to an item appearing on the consent agenda. This is the refund and course withdrawal policy recommendation. And the change requires us to move it off the consent agenda into the ASA committee report. I'm going to ask for your acceptance of that quick change to the consent agenda and for a vote to a motion to approve the consent agenda and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the consent items? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? All right, consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. Now the standing committee reports. Regent Harris, the ASA items.
Yes, I have just the one item that we just mentioned that was on the consent calendar. It appears, I believe, on page 80, at least in my iPad. And I would like a motion, a substitute motion on that item. And I'll explain it just very briefly. The refund and course withdrawal policy changes the timeline for withdrawing from courses for two reasons. One, it provides equity to all students, whether they're on student financial aid or not. And secondly, it assures that students do not incur debt when they withdraw from a course according to that timeline, and then have a problem when they go to register the next time because they don't have the money to pay back that debt. The only changes we're asking, the substitute resolution would read exactly like the resolution in the board book, but would change the timeline for implementation to the last line. It would read to summer of 2021 instead of spring. The reason is we need that time to assure that the banner system is up to date and can accommodate that change. So I move the substitute resolution.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? All right, the resolution is approved. Thank you. Anything else? Regent Harris.
That's all I have to report.
All right, thank you. Regent Wright, concerning the audit committee.
Yeah. Okay. This is
there you are.
brief. There I am. Okay. Management discussed the fiscal year 2020 financial statement close process, and we're very pleased by the improvements that were made since the last fiscal year. We were able to have all three financial statements issued timely by our auditors next week. Grant Thornton presented the audit reports and required communications for the Connecticut community colleges, the Connecticut State Universities, and Charter Oak State College for the year ended June 30th, 2020. All three audit reports resulted in clean, unmodified opinions. The auditors noticed that there were a few technical adjustments made during their audits, but that none of the adjustments were qualitatively material to the financial statements. Grant Thornton emphasized that the internal control matter that was identified during the fiscal year 2019 audit for the community colleges had been remediated for fiscal year 2020. There were no internal control matters to report this year, and management then gave an update on an RFP for the audit, accounting, and management advisory services for fiscal years 2021 through 2025. The RFP committee's recommendation was Grant Thornton, who has been the system's current auditor for the last 5 years. The audit committee voted and approved the appointment of Grant Thornton. No other matters were discussed, but I do want to say on behalf of the regents on the audit committee that management, including Ben Barnes and Melinda, did an exceptional job this year. We had a lot of challenges last year, but we've got through them. There's still some more improvement that we would like to see, but we have every confidence that we are moving in the right direction. I want to thank them for the work that they did to ensure that we met the deadlines this year. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Regent Wright. Much appreciated, and also appreciate your acknowledgement of the professional team. Finance and Infrastructure Committee, Regent Balducci, over to you. Hopefully.
Rich, you're on mute.
Standing by here.
That's the best finance report I've heard.
Okay,
We could,
got me?
there he is, looking good, yes.
Yeah, looking great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I would just like to join with you in congratulating Commissioner Cardona being considered for a position in the federal government. I have mixed emotions about that. He's done such an outstanding job here in the great state of Connecticut. I'd also like to thank Ben and Melantine and their team for the work they did on a budget that, by the way, is in uncharted waters because of the 2020 Corona-19, et cetera, et cetera. But with that, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee met on Wednesday, December 2nd. It included one discussion item and 8 items of action. 7 of those we took action on just now on the consent calendar. I would like to go over the information item, which was somewhat extensive, and all of you have before you, but basically it is a budget finance updated by our CFO, and the updates included the CSCU has received an additional $20 million committed to us for the state-controlled coronavirus relief fund. This, of course, will help reduce our current budget to $42 million, subject to the large enrollment and other risk factors facing us as we move forward in the spring. The staff report also discussed continuing financial risks related to enrollment and the pandemic, which are significant and worrisome as this pandemic has surged, as you know, over the last several weeks. Finally, the update included information related to the additional $8 million in reductions to the university budget, which were enacted in the October meeting, which amount to about 1% of the spending. I would just like to clarify, because I heard 2 or 3 different people comment on that, that the universities were giving flexibility in that area. The major concern, of course, being that the internships and assistantships would damage what was taking place at the universities. I would indicate that the presidents have been given latitude on that, and that any of the assistants or internships that were affected were through attrition, and that the others who had been committed to positions still have them. That also that I heard Dr. Blitz, and rightfully so, indicated that there was a downward trend. Part of it has to do with the pandemic and the smaller classes, et cetera, and also the fact that 2 of the universities, Eastern and Southern, lost nobody as far as their internships and graduate assistants go. The only losses were at Western and at Central, and those, I believe, were done without any harm to the students or men and women who were taking part in any of the programs, whether they be graduate assistants or interns. We should be getting a detailed report on that sometime in February. Since the meeting on December 2nd, the system completed its fiscal 2020 statements. Based on the audit numbers that came back for our unrestricted net positions or our reserves, we need to make some adjustments, and most of them are not good. For the colleges, our position improved about $500,000 compared to the earlier projections, which is the positive side of this. For the universities, however, we're going to have to lower our reserves another $20 million. So instead of approximately $120 million in reserves at the universities, we're going to end up with about $99 to $100 million. This results from a variety of accruals and non-operating items, and a significant drop off, of course, in capital contributions from the state. Based on this, we are going to see those lowered. The college projections will improve from about 18 million and change to about $19 million. And that pretty much concludes the information item. There is a chart there for anyone to see. I can't recall what page it's on, but to take a look at where those diminishing funds are as far as the reserves go. With that, I would like to move on to the action item. The action item for separate action today is the approval of the budget submission to the Office of Policy Management for fiscal years 2022 and 2023. These items have been submitted to OPM on a preliminary basis to meet their deadlines, subject, of course, which we'll do today, to board approval. They include basically a 2-year baseline budget or current services budget, a proposed capital budget, and a budget option piece. The baseline budget makes the following assumptions, and Mark mentioned a couple of them, but I'm going to reiterate them because it's important. First of all, one of the assumptions is that enrollment and occupancy rates that begin to improve from our current levels, which of course are down, as we all know, will increase to the pre-pandemic level, hopefully by 2024. Another assumption is being made, as Mark had mentioned, was the flat tuition and fees for 2022 fiscal year, which means students know already that they will not have to face any tuition or fee increases in that fiscal year. That no collective bargaining increases will take place. However, I would mention that they will build in a 5% increase in fringe benefits, and those costs grow each year as we move forward. And the last would be the funding will be provided for PAC, which everybody seems to agree on, and guided pathways, which there seem to be some concern about, having listened to the conversation today. But those are the assumptions being made. Based on those assumptions, the baseline budget, will show deficits of 47 million and 62 million for the universities over those fiscal years 2022 and 2023, and 27 million and 24 million for the colleges for 2022 and 2023. These deficits are largely driven by reduced revenue shortfalls from enrollment, as we've already indicated, and another big one, of course, being residency halls. As you know, if we close all the universities down for 1 week at the residence halls, it costs us $3 million a week or thereabouts, which is not a positive for us. Charter Oak is a bright spot. Their baseline budget shows pretty much balanced over the next 2 years. The capital budget request, the second piece, is an update of last year's. Recall, if you remember, that there weren't any bond package actions taken because of the pandemic and the shortening of the 2020 session. So there were no actions taken on that, and they're going to revisit that with the same kind of numbers that we've done before. And thirdly, the budget options, which are a bright spot, but probably difficult to encourage. Suggestion being made, or hopes being suggested, is a budget options that they increase our block grants to help cover our projected deficit by $74 million and $87 million over the next 2 fiscal years. Those are that's the action item which we're bringing forth, which we're going to try and move forward and send over to OPM. And I would move adoption of the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Cohen. Any questions or further discussion before a vote on these items? All right. I think I'm hearing myself echo. So, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and vote this. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining?
Abstaining.
Someone's abstaining. Let's record that.
Antonia Oglesby.
Okay.
Thank you, Antonia.
Got you. All right, Regent Balducci, I mean, in your capacity as finance chair and also a longstanding participant and observer of the process, clearly the ask you referenced of $5 million plus in coverage for the related revenue gaps is critical. Do you have anything you could share with us in terms of prospects, which I know prognostications are tough now, or the role that this board ought to play in and our supporters in advocating for that support?
You know, one of the things I think we'll have shown is that we're making moves and making cuts and adjustments where we feel necessary. Many of them hopefully won't be painful to the students who we affect. I think it's going to be important that we as a group be able to talk to and speak with the leadership of both the House and the Senate and the chairs of the Appropriations Committee and the Higher Education Committee and advocate our position for what was said by many of the speakers, by the way, which preempted our regular board meeting, seeking to make sure that our students and faculty and staff are treated in a fair way and that we remain a top flight public education institution. The CSCU is something that we all should be proud of. Many have made that comment. I would like to see that come together. So we are working together and advocating that members of the board also be contacting members of the, as I said, higher education leadership in the House and Senate and chairs of the Appropriations Committee as we move into the next legislative session, which, by the way, begins on Wednesday, January 6th. We are in a tough position, and it's not easy to do what we're trying to do. And I would like to one time be able to come in with a positive saying, let's figure out how we can spend dollars better to make our university better because we have a pot full of money. I have never been able to say that in all the years I've been in the legislature and on this board.
Thank you. That's a helpful and sobering assessment. And I know that every member of this board and certainly the admin team and really everyone with an interest is going to be in one voice on that. And it really would be deeply sad if we failed to do that just because we're in the middle of a negotiation about contract terms. And one hopes that we can achieve that. So thank you for the continued work on assessing the continually changing situation that you and CFO Barnes and the team are undertaking. And we do look forward to the more fulsome report on one college and our overall circumstances and the ever shifting baseline for our assumptions and projections coming up at our next meeting. All right, anything further?
No, that completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Regent Cohen, HR and Admin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You had asked if I could just give the board a brief update of how our search policy works and respond to a suggestion that somehow the board has developed a position that we do not want to be transparent. So if, just as a quick reminder, the search policy for the system president is our fourth iteration, our fourth policy on how searches will be conducted. It goes back to 2015 when we passed a policy on university and college presidents. In 2018, we talked an adopted policy on regional and camp presidents and campus CEOs. And in September, the board adopted a policy on how to select the system president. There's commonality in all the policies. They both envision a board search committee and a broad-based system advisory committee. Both committees will see all resumes. Both committees will have representatives interviewing semifinalists and finalists. But the search advisory committee is going to represent not only faculty, but staff, students, non-faculty campus people, and community representatives. So that's where we are. There are obvious differences in this search. Obviously, the advisory committee is much more broad-based because we're selecting a system president rather than a president or a leader of an individual institution. And the COVID pandemic has obviously changed to a setup where we're going to have to be conducting our interviews all remotely compared to past practices. But I would say to the board that we did what our policy suggested and what we have done in the past, and that was to work, to select and work along with a consultant in order to do this. It is the advice of our consultant that the new norm is to, and especially in this environment, is to protect the confidentiality of the finalist applicants until a finalist is suggested. We had said to the consultants that one of the foundations of the search is to ensure that we have a diverse, expansive, and inclusive pool of applicants. And this consultant has said to us that the new norm and this environment speaks to having the finalist names protected because people will not apply. People are concerned about at least stabilizing their current position, even if they're interested because of all the uncertainty that's going around. So we have taken that to heart and said, yes, we will do that this time. I should tell the board that we did check in to see how the University of Connecticut selected its current president recently. And they did the same thing. And the consultant has provided us with lists of colleges and universities who are all doing that. The difference in our search process between what UConn did and what we will do is that UConn took its 40-member committee to interview the finalist candidates, and the whole committee interviewed each finalist. What we've recommended to make a more intimate and more fully engaged process is for the entire search advisory committee, when it does its work, to interview the finalists in constituencies, so that there would be time for a faculty interview, time for a student interview, time for a community interview. And the search advisory committee will be planning those according to what that committee feels it's best. But we have the same 40 people that UConn did. We're recommending that little change. And most of all, we're looking forward to working with the search advisory committee, as we have in the past, to reach a successful resolution in the selection of the candidate whom the board will nominate and approve. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I guess I see you, Dr. Blitz, so I'll defer to you. Go ahead and.
No, please, Chairman Fleury, make your statement first.
Just wanted to say that and if any of you is offended by this because you have no role in it, don't be. I have heard literally that there are rumors that somehow this is a baked process and that there's a candidate. And I just want to say that on my behalf, and I know that my co-chair on the search, Regent Wright, is in the exact same place. There is not one candidate. I don't have a roster. She doesn't have a roster. There's no back of the napkin sketch. This is a process in its earliest stages, and what we're about now, with considerable investment of time and resources, is the solicitation of candidates to enter this process so we can identify the best person. So I sort of hesitate to even say that. It's just that I know how badly misinformation can color people's views of what we're trying to do. And that is one I heard, and frankly was surprised to hear that we had been so far down the pike in this important search. So we're not. What you've just heard is the actual status of where we are and where we're going. That's all I had. Dr. Blitz?
Well, I concur with Chairman Fleury, but the problem is there are other people who, in fact, do have the impression that he was trying to deal with. We discussed this at the Faculty Advisory Committee, and I put forward to the members of the committee the argument that Ann OConnor has just made, namely that the search firm has stated that, on their view, a better roster of candidates would be made available if there were, in effect, confidentiality, which some people interpret as secrecy, with respect to the finalists. And there was one member of the committee who defended that position. And we discussed it thoroughly, and we, as a result, that member changed his position, and we did have a unanimous vote to request that, quote, there be opportunities for all members of the CSCU community and residents of Connecticut to question and meet with the finalists selected for CSCU president and provide comments to the Board of Regents Search Committee for their review and consideration. It was a question of which argument has more importance, as it were. And I don't think that people denied that there might be some candidates who would not wish to be a finalist if their name were to be revealed. But we think that the benefits of publicity, of a public discussion with those finalists, outweighs that drawback. And consequently, that's why we stated that we would like to have a public meetings with the 3 finalists. And so that's the point of view of the Faculty Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Blitz. Any other information or discussion on this topic? All right, thank you. Why don't we move, I have nothing incidentally from the executive committee. We're not doing an executive committee meeting today, nor did we have one on which to report that we haven't already reported on. We will take a moment here for a special presentation and recognition. So let me, to commence that final portion of our meeting today, turn to our vice chair. I know you're still on, Merle. So Regent Harris, could you open at least our special presentation on recognition of President Ojakian's service and retirement?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Indeed, I'm pleased to have the honor of doing this. I have known our president, Mark Ojakian, for 3 decades of his 4 decades of public service. And it is really nice to know him more or less at the beginning of that career, and as he's stepping down probably to a new career, but at least not with state service the same way. So I'd like to read a resolution into the record, and just at the start of this honoring of our president. So here it goes. Whereas Mark Ojakian's retirement on January 1st, 2021 ends more than 4 decades of his public service to the people of Connecticut. And whereas over the past 5 years, President Ojakian has led the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities system with a passion for accessible, affordable, and equitable educational opportunities. And whereas Mark's leadership was critical to the CSCU system of 17 institutions, a $1.3 billion operating budget, 9,000 employees, and more than 100,000 students. And whereas President Ojakian has brought vision, stability, and innovation with system in transition amid a turbulent economic environment for higher education. And whereas throughout his tenure, Mark has prioritized student retention and graduation, has valued the skilled faculty and staff to support student teaching and learning, and has partnered with business and in government communities to assure that CSCU meets Connecticut's goals of an informed citizenry and an educated workforce that supports the state's economy. And whereas President Ojakian is an outspoken, articulate champion of higher education, whose advocacy for lifelong learning has made a meaningful impact to the quality of life for all CSCU's students, faculty, and staff. And whereas Mark's presidency has been filled with long work days and nights, ongoing engagement with communities that support our campuses and institutions, countless media opportunities to publicize the advantages of a CSCU education, and close working relationships with public and private higher education leaders. Now, the important part, therefore be it resolved that Mark's presidency and dedication will be honored by the establishment of a transfer scholarship in his name to the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities Foundation. And be it further resolved that the Board of Regents for Higher Education recognizes President Ojakian for his vital contributions to the CSCU system that have fostered student learning inside and outside the classroom, have contributed to the economic needs and opportunities of students and employers, and have been a proactive, loud, and substantive voice for social justice. And be it further resolved that the Board of Regents for Higher Education extends its sincere appreciation to President Mark Ojakian for his leadership of the Connecticut system of colleges and universities, and extends its sincere, heartfelt wishes to him for retirement overflowing with good health, personal fulfillment, and new adventures. Dated at Hartford, Connecticut, the 17th day of December, 2020.
Thank you. That's beautiful and appropriate. I believe you want a motion and a second to formally adopt this statement.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Well, I think a lot is said there, and it sums up beautifully what many of us would say in less articulate words. I'll just personally add my thanks to you, President Ojakian, for investing so much of yourself into the mission of our colleges and universities. I know as a career devoted to the empowerment of others in public service, this has been particularly special and important, as well as challenging opportunity to pursue those goals. I just have always remarked, from the moment that you took the position there, that my emails and your commentary at meetings and your actions across the system very consistently attended to the life needs of students, whether that be with regard to affordability and accessibility or simple things like transportation to get to school. And your constant advocacy for the civil rights and social justice needs of our students and our community is also noted. So I'll leave it at that, because I know we have a long meeting behind us and a few small things ahead of us, and the statement says so much, but that's a little bit of an addendum from me informally. Does anyone else have anything to add before we ask President Ojekian to share any reflections that he might at this late stage of our conversation today?
Hey, Matt, I'll just jump on if you don't mind.
Please.
Well, President Ojekian, just wanted to congratulate you on 5 great years. It's can be lonely at the top, as they say, but it takes a strong will and a strong heart to put in that effort and really make the efforts to make a positive impact. And you've certainly put that forward, not only in your time as president here, but in other roles as well. And you've hard earned some time off. So congratulations. I've only had a short time to do this with you, but it has been my privilege and my honor. So thanks for all you've done.
Thanks, Regent Santiago.
Yeah, Chairman Flory, can you hear me? This is David Jimenez.
Yes.
At the risk of losing a good connection, I've come on video. I've had video off because I heard in the grapevine that by doing so, the connection would be stronger. Anyway, I have been here, and I just wanted to say, Mark, congratulations to you. It's been a pleasure working with you, alongside you, the last 5 years. You've been a terrific, inspiring leader. You were born with that gene labeled GSD that stands for Get It Done. I'll edit myself there. And you've inspired others to move forward and take on amazing challenges. I recall fondly our first meeting a few years before you came on board, and it's been a terrific partnership since then, and a failed negotiation on my effort not to keep you for several more years, but you beat me too. You beat me is the quick answer to that. So stay in touch, and we look forward to seeing you in the next chapter of your life. Thank you.
Chairman Flory, can I say a word?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark, Kurt Westby here. I've known you for decades, spanning careers, spanning various jobs, and you've all been approachable. You've always been amenable. You've always been a solution creator. I know that, and I'm alluding to some of the comments you made just a little bit earlier. You've found ways to get things done. The state of Connecticut and the citizenry of Connecticut is going to miss you with your leaving. I've got the utmost respect for all the work you've done, and I'm proud to have been associated with you, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Commissioner Westby. It's good to see you and hear from you, and appreciate your remarks. Anyone have anything to add?
This is Elise. It's been a morning, but just want to add one thing. When you first came on board and started in this position, one of the things that I remember most was the strained relationships that the board had with several of our constituents. And that was at the student level. It ranged from the student to the legislative level. And I remembered your listening tours and the amount of time you devoted to listening to all of the constituents, management, faculty, students, legislators, folks in the community. And it did so much to improve the relationships that we had with the constituents, that the board had with the constituents, but also it helped us, it placed us in the position that we heard more from sort of the various constituents and understood more what was going on. There's never going to be perfection, but your dedication, your focus, your commitment to this institution is impressive. And I want to thank you for all that you did, because as for me as a board member, I learned from you, and you were very helpful during a time when I wasn't sure that I wanted to remain on the board. So I really do appreciate all that you did.
I'm just going to piggyback off that for a second.
President Ojakian, the first time I met you, I was in a leadership role at the Student Advisory Committee. And I remember we suggested you might want to come to a meeting in the future. And then we just couldn't get rid of you for like 5 years. But it was awesome because you came and you talked to us like people, right? You didn't come with a big presentation about this is what I'm going to do and you should like it and blah, blah, blah. And you came and you talked to the Student Advisory Committee as people. We never felt like there was something we couldn't say to you. And as a result, we were able to do a lot of things together to benefit students. And I really feel like we made a lot of progress in that regard, but we had invited your predecessors to come speak to us. And I got to tell you, it was never a willing journey for them to make that walk downstairs to where we were meeting. So that made a huge impression on the students. And as Elise said, I think it totally changed the relationship between the students and the board. And as a result, we have gotten more feedback. We have gotten more information necessary to do our job. So we're going to miss you. I'm sure you won't miss days like this, but we will miss you. So.
Hi, Mark. This is Felice. I just wanted to thank you not only for all that you've meant to the board and to the state and will continue to mean, but for taking pity and grace with incorporating me into the board in a time that can only best be described for me as a maelstrom, both professionally and personally, and then coming into all that we are trying to do and achieving as a board, and never in 1 minute of any interaction with you individually.
Oh dear. I think Felice's line dropped. Okay.
It looks like she did.
Okay. All right. So let me just remind everyone, we have, I believe, a motion.
Motion and a second.
And a second. We have outstanding a vote on this. Is there anyone with something they very much want to offer before we go ahead with that? Okay. And I don't mean to cut anybody short. So let me call a vote on this resolution. And so all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay. Nice note to go out on. I would like to dedicate my contribution to the scholarship to the future CSCU student in the arms of Regent Wright. Though my suspicion is that my help will not be needed because we have an academic superstar in the making already. Many will be vying for the opportunity to call them theirs in higher ed. But it's so beautiful to see you with your grandchild, and I think a fitting end to our conversation to see that. And I do want to also offer President Ojakian an opportunity to reflect a little bit. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find myself almost speechless after that really incredible resolution and those very kind comments from all of you. I'm going to try to keep my comments brief, but together we've accomplished a lot over the last 5 years. But I want to start by thanking all of you for putting your trust in me and for allowing me to take your vision and your direction and move it forward. You did provide incredible strategic direction for the system that's really founded on the success of the students we serve, and in particular in working toward equity in outcomes. I've been motivated over the last 5 years by a little voice in my head that tells me that we have a responsibility to make sure that all students from all families in Connecticut have the same opportunities to succeed. The same opportunities, no matter where you were born, where you come from, the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, or the geography of your home. And so what I've tried to do is assemble a team that feels the same way. I've been blessed with an incredible team at the system office. I'll have an opportunity to share with them some moments next week as we get ready for the Christmas holiday. But I would be remiss if I didn't thank them for really the incredible amount of work that they have done. All of the leaders on our campus, the faculty and staff throughout the system, I think we've made good on our promise to make it a little easier for folks to pursue their educational opportunities. You know, together, we heard from students who saw transportation as a significant barrier to their college experience. And we partnered with DOT to launch the UPass system, making it easier and more affordable for students to get to class. We also renegotiated our bookstore contract to save community college students $4 million a year on the cost of their books. All students, all families, same opportunities for success. We also finally implemented the transfer and articulation policy, making it seamless for students to transfer to a state university. You know, and the program has been, I believe, so successful that we have now joined with some private universities in the state of Connecticut to have similar sorts of arrangement. It's about providing opportunities for students to succeed no matter where they choose to go to school. But this was, as you know, a huge undertaking. And it involved faculty, staff, and administrators working together toward a common goal. And because of their work, we became the first state in the nation to pass a statewide transfer policy. Again, thanks to the board's leadership, we are on track, as I said earlier, to have Connecticut State Community College accredited in 2023. You know, grounded in the board's steadfast commitment to equity, access, and long-term financial viability, the One College will adopt nationally recognized best practices to student success, creating a better experience for all of our students. We will keep all of our campuses open, which are not only vital resources, creating opportunities for the students they serve, but are central pillars to their communities, economies, and cultures. And so I want to thank the board for their leadership in this effort, and to the hundreds of administrators, faculty, and staff who have worked on committees and have been part of the solution. As we all are aware, this has not been easy. And I thank you for your courage and your commitment to the students we collectively serve. As has been indicated before, we also established Connecticut's Free Community College Initiative, and the board redoubled their commitment to this effort by providing the funding that was necessary to keep the program operational while we continue to deal with COVID-19. We have a commitment from legislative leaders that the program will be funded in the future, but it was your efforts that made the program begin and continue during a very difficult time in our state's history. We work together to help incarcerated individuals pursue an education while they were serving their sentence. And thanks to the Second Chance Pell Pilot Program, hundreds of people have had the opportunity to receive college-level instruction and earn credit while in prison. The most stirring commencements I attended were in the prison. To watch the look on the inmates' faces and their families as they did something they never thought they would have an opportunity to do. And I personally saw individuals who graduated, who got out of prison, and now were gainfully employed at our manufacturing centers. The cycle was complete, and I couldn't be more grateful for the support, not only of the board, but of the campuses that participated in this effort. We also are a lead partner with the NAACP in their Million Jobs campaign, which is aimed at employment opportunities for recently released incarcerated individuals. And Connecticut is the pilot site, and we will continue that momentum. And we worked with Don Graham and the Dream.us Foundation to help dreamers who were locked out from receiving a college education in their home state to come to Connecticut and get a 4-year education at Eastern Connecticut State University. The results have been dramatic. Our first cohort of students has now graduated, and many of those students have made Connecticut their homes. We were also finally successful in our effort to allow undocumented students to access institutional financial aid. It was a matter of fairness and equity, and we finally worked with the legislature to make sure that that happened. We also partnered with the legislature to pass new sexual misconduct legislation, including an affirmative consent standard, which helps the students that we serve on campuses, and developed statewide policies impacting LGBTQ students, including gender-neutral bathrooms, preferred names, preferred pronouns, and we organized the first system-wide Pride conference that we held at Middlesex Community College. Of course, serving in this role, there's been nothing more fulfilling to me than the chance to interact with our students. I have loved driving to each of the campuses on many occasions to meet with many students groups, both in good times and also in times where students were suffering. Learning about their dreams and what were the obstacles that prevented them from accomplishing their dreams, and how could we help to remove those obstacles. Seeing our students up at the Capitol in front of the Appropriations Committee, where they were not accustomed to telling the story of their educational experience, and watching how the legislature reacted to those moments was one of the proudest moments I've ever had in my life. People said to me that I look like a proud parent watching our students testify, and I did feel like that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that one of the most humbling experiences I've had recently was to receive a letter from the mother of one of our students, thanking me for everything I did to help her child graduate, go to graduate school, and become a leader in the community. It was handwritten on a regular piece of paper. This is a woman who has one child in jail and one child pursuing a master's degree. And I have to tell you, it just made me feel that the work we have done together matters. It impacts people's lives, sometimes more than we will ever understand. So there's no doubt we've made a lot of progress, but there is much more work to do if we want to live up to our guiding principles and our mission. And I want to just take a moment to indicate to all of you that I have every confidence in the ability of my successor, Dr. Jane Gates, to continue the momentum that we've all started and to do an incredible job with an incredible team to lead the system in the transition. I want to say we must continue our advocacy with our state government partners. We know that in recent years, as budgets have been tight, not just in Connecticut, but around the country, higher education funding has been on the chopping block. We've been fortunate over the past couple of years to see some increases after more than a decade of reductions, but we need to continue to advocate for investment in our colleges and universities, which are part of the state's lifeblood. Our legislators understand the importance of our institutions and our students to the future of our state. But we must continue to make the case that increased investment in our system is an increased investment in the economy and in the workforce. And I know this team under this board and under the leadership of my friend Chairman Fleury will do just that. Second, on the topic of workforce, we must build on the progress we have made from our work with the Governor's Workforce Council to the expansion of our advanced manufacturing centers to the incredible partnerships we have formed with employers across the state. We must continue that momentum. Our state universities and colleges are truly the engine for the state's economic development efforts, and we must do everything in our power to maintain and expand that role. Finally, we must continue to be a paragon of equity and justice. We must fully implement the board's policies to improve outcomes for minoritized students who have traditionally fallen behind. We must take a self-examination to determine how we perpetuate systemic racism, and more importantly, what we can do to reverse it. And on a personal level, we must do more to celebrate our differences, confront our challenges, and rejoice in the bonds that bring us together as people. Our colleges and universities have led the fight for civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and so much more. Our campuses, our leaders in Connecticut, have stood side by side in those fights. It is a proud legacy of our system, but it is needed now more than ever. So thank you for your incredible hard work. This is a very bittersweet moment for me, as on January 1st, I will turn off my computer and go away. Not exactly the exit I was anticipating. But I have known many of you, as you have indicated, for many, many years. I have worked with many of you, from Naomi Cohen, Rich Balducci, to Merle Harris. I'm going to see what Merle Harris is doing next, and then I will follow her wherever she goes. My friendship with Matt Fleury, which was a friendship before he became a member on the board. My working relationship with Kurt Westby and the other commissioners on this board. Holly, who used to be a student regent and now is a full member of the Board of Regents. You know, David, Elise, Ari, all of you. I feel somewhat responsible for many of you, since I had conversations with many of you in a prior role about joining the board. But I have been honored to be your president. I have been humbled by the accolades that you have given me today. I will miss all of you as I move forward in my personal and professional life, but I have every confidence that our paths will cross again. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I'll be back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, President Ojekian. It's beautiful, and we really appreciate your work and your remarks, and have been happy to work with you. I believe there's one final element of this section. So, Alice, do you have that ready to go?
I am going to work on that right now. Sorry, have to do a little finagling.
Okay, where are you going? I thought we were just getting started together.
All right, hold on. Are you all seeing a video?
We're seeing your screen. You're sharing your email screen.
Yeah, we see your email.
Hold on. That's going to go away. Okay. So,
Nope.
Nope. Oh.
We're seeing the wrong screen. We were seeing your desktop, not the video.
Okay, hold on. Give me a chance. I think I can do this. Any chance that the governor
That's it.
It's on your screen?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, here we go.
government as far as I can figure out. OPM, working for Nancy Wyman, that was probably a highlight of your career. Chief of Staff to Dan. And I understand you waited tables at Carbone. You have done absolutely everything. You're too young to be heading out to the setting sun, but in the meantime, stay in touch. We miss you so much. You've been such an incredible asset for the state of Connecticut. We all love you. Take care. There's no way that I can say all the things I need to say about my friend Mark Ojakian in 30 seconds or less. I love you. Kathy loves you, and we both love your husband. Your friendship has been one of the great joys of our life. Working with you and having the opportunity to observe you has been one of the great lessons of my life. You're not a bad matchmaker either, in as much as you and Andrew McDonald brought along the marriage of Nancy and myself as a ticket. I'm not going to miss you because I'm not going to give you up. We're going to be part of your life for the rest of it. So best to you. Love you. See you soon.
I can't believe it's done. And nice for the story.
I'm not able to hear.
Hey, Mark. Thank you so much for your dedicated service to the state of Connecticut. It's been an honor for me to serve with you in several capacities throughout my service in government. Your work for the state of Connecticut, what you have done, has been exemplary. And you did it in the best of all manners, with the kind of intelligence-centered, minded results that we expect from a person of your vast capability. Your work with Nancy Wyman, and certainly your work in the state university system, has been stellar. I wish you the very best of luck in your new journey, and thanks again for your great service to the state. God bless you, Mark.
Hi, this is Joe Courtney, speaking to you from Washington, D.C. Congressman Secretary, but more importantly, Mark Ojakian's classmate at Northwest Catholic High School many years ago. Congratulations on an outstanding career of public service, Mark. Don't be surprised to have you know person you are. And I hope after you recharge the batteries, you will find other ways to continue to serve the country well, because you're so passionate about people. Best wishes to you.
Congratulations on your retirement. Thank you so much for everything you've done for my life and how it's impacted me. I'll never forget our interactions. I'm so glad that I have you on my side. Congratulations.
President Ojakian, congratulations on your retirement. It was a pleasure, honor, and privilege to have known you and worked with you. And remember, never retire off of leadership, it's off the work that you do. Good blessings and enjoy your retirement.
OJ, thank you for your amazing years of service to the people of Connecticut. And thank you even more for being a wonderful, wonderful friend. You and I have covered a lot of territory over the last 25 years, from parties in P-Town to plotting intrigue in a parking lot at the Xfinity Center. Charles and I wish you and Jason only the very best in the next chapter of your life together. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Maybe even for Friday meetings. By the way, are these your glasses or mine? I can never tell. Congratulations, my friend. Enjoy your well-deserved retirement.
Congratulations on your retirement, President Ojakian. You've done so much for so many students across Connecticut, and as one of those students, I want to wish you the happiest retirement, especially after 2020. Take care.
Hi, Mark. It's been great working with someone who values students above all else. Good luck with whatever you tackle next.
President Ojakian, I would like to thank you for your knowledge and guidance over the last 2 years. Your dedication to students will never be forgotten. I would like to wish you a very happy, healthy, and safe retirement.
A lot of fake news in the system, Mark. I just heard something. I felt like I had to tell you right away. There's saying you're retiring. We know that it's just fake news, that it's not going to happen.
So I wanted to bring your attention to this right away. And yeah, not fake news. Oh, God, I mean,
Hey, Mark, Miguel here from the State Department of Education. Listen, congratulations on your retirement. When I first read it, it said, very much so. I wish I had another 40 years with you, but I enjoyed the little time I had with you. Congratulations.
I'm Richard Blumenthal, a friend of Mark O'Jakian and also the United States Senator. I am so proud and grateful to be a friend of Mark because throughout his really incomparable career of public service and all of the impressive titles and accolades and awards there is a constant thread. It is his insight, integrity, his powerful work ethic, his dedication to the public interest, and his caring and loyalty as a friend. I am so grateful and excited to be part of this occasion with him and Jason Well and all of your family as you begin this new chapter. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, Chris Murphy. I can't believe you're retiring. I'm not sure I actually believe it. I have a feeling that you're going to find lots of other ways to provide service to the state. But man, I mean, you're the definition of public service. You love our state, you dedicated your life to serving our state, and I know that you continue to find ways to do it. Thank you for setting an example and a model that I hope of many, many public servants coming up through the system will follow. You're a great person, Mark, and congratulations on your retirement.
That was great. Thank you.
Yes, you're very right. I do want to thank Lee Appleby for being the videographer, or, aggregator of all those videos. And I do want you to know that there is a 45-minute version, which we did not subject you to, that which has many of you and others in it that we'll give to Mark separately. But just wanted to, we couldn't control how many people wanted to say something.
Right. Thank you. That was beautiful. Good job, Lee, and everybody involved. And, still snowing and we're all cooped up for many reasons now. So, we could go for the long play if you want to extend the meeting for 45 minutes. Who's in? All right. As he sighs in relief, perhaps, or with emotion, Mark, thank you for your good work, and we certainly look forward to continuing to calling you from time to time for some advice. And we do wish you the best and are excited to see what might be next, even if that really does mean something warmer than this and less stressful. And also, it goes without saying, we look forward so much to working with Dr. Gates in her role as interim president. We're really grateful to her and so grateful to Alice and the team that you've assembled that enables us to survive this moment with some sense of confidence that we can carry forward from a management leadership perspective. So thank you. Is there any other business or are there any other comments? All right. Well, hearing none, I will request a motion to adjourn the meeting and
So moved. Second.
In favor.
Aye.
Happy holidays to you all.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Mark.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.